Pain points and their projections. How do we assume that people are going to know exactly what this kind of session is about? I'm assuming a lot of things about a lot of people. That's where we go. I'm assuming that my causes are more important than my pain. This is where others are. My cause has caused me to turn my pain into a passion. This is where many are turning those projections of pain into causes. And those causes are noteworthy by many a soul's standards. So you see, this is not about demeaning any of our hearts. What we do is we understand we're here to make a change, is where most are. We make changes with our hearts. Is that not correct? Or are we going for the throat, as Brenda has had to hear? Some people will go to the jugular. It's an expression of desperation for most. If you want to do the truly lasting, loving soul vision, you don't go through the throat vision. This vision of my words are my weapon can also be what people are talking about. When I project out onto the screen, are people feeling beautiful for who they are? Are they gaining wisdom in their moments? Are they gaining information to help them succeed? Are they gaining views that they've never experienced before? You see, that's where that empath vision was also coming in. Most will say this is an empathic vision versus this is the empath vision. Unless you have gone through the subject matter, you have no idea what you're talking about, is what most will say. However, others will say, I have enough sympathy to know that that is part of the issue. When my pain becomes another, you would understand it as the emotions of the moment, not just who they are as a soul. Correct? I am embodied as a soul. It means I do the vision with my soul on board. I don't care for your vision is where some of us go. Others will tell us, I love who you are because you tell the straight dope. You see, this is why some people are allowing themselves the freedom to see others' perspectives. From a place of, I thought I knew what I knew, until I realized in going through the process of soul embodiment, I had no idea what kind of pain people were going through. It can be a painful procedure to unlock the vision of soul, or it can be a beautiful enhancement to your own soul, depending on where you are in your mind. If you're trying to cause pain to others in your field of vision, it can be very hard. And so this is why those who come into the vision of, I'm trying to cause pain versus I'm trying to release us from the painful memories of what we once went through. Others are doing that work beautifully. Others are reinforcing it day by day until they themselves realize this no longer serves me anymore. I'm done with that vision of victim. In my mind, I'm free. I'm no longer caring about who I am in someone else's field of view. That's where a lot of us are. We say, I don't care about what other people think. And yet, on the soul level, most of us do realize that there are people in our lives who we dearly do wish they understood our pain. Okay, the understanding of a pain point is one in which your own soul, as Brenda has been given, will give you a reoccurrence of something through her mind to see if she has indeed let go of the victimhood of it. Do you know what it's like to have a pain point revealed and then to project that vision onto the screen? What Brenda does is, in fact, I go in, I hear the vision, I react, I have a moment of clarity before I go out on the screen, right? This is more about what happens in her daily life. And she says, this is the beauty of who I am as a soul who's been embodied by her own soul for, others would say, weeks. It's years. It's a year vision that she works with, right? No, this has been at least 10 years of growth through the process of discovery of my own soul from a plane of wisdom and guidance. I still don't handle discovery of other souls as well as what I would like sometimes. It can be difficult when you hear the rejection from others who have their own agendas that they are caretaking in their minds or their hearts. It depends. We're of heart vision right now. My family sets me free for the most part because they know I honor their vision from where they were, which was in no way, shape, or form able to comprehend the process that I've been going through. Okay, once you go to that vision of I can understand where you're coming from, then you can understand the nature of, I know my situation was not like yours, but I have a beautiful expression of sympathy coming your way. That's where most really are. Okay? All of our unique pleasures and discoveries are there for us to see. Whether we focus on the pain of the moment or the pleasure of the moment is up to us. For some of us, we are not allowed that discovery process. For some of us who were in the tragedy of slave state, perhaps, we were not granted that vision, so we discovered our pleasure in the ways in which we could, which was very much limited in its scope and variety. What we discover now is the idea that people are wanting everyone else to identify with who they are. We're looking for more like us. And when you find out that you're not like anything you thought you were, once you hit soul, you start to unwind the vision of the conditioning that was placed upon me by my family, my friends, my loved ones, my whole vision, right? Or you say, I myself took on those traits that others were hoping I would be for them. And then we reject some of those conditions, and then the fallout can happen. How many people are now in the vision of I'm rejecting aspects of my family tree's wisdom? It can be a good place for people to start, but with the understanding, even as Brenda says, I understand the pain of discovery of soul vision that contradicts most of my family's upbringing, except for a few souls. And then more and more souls start to align with that vision of, yeah, we understand now there's a process of discovery that people are going through that would have been labeled one thing if we were back in the 70s or 80s, versus even today, many are labeling us as mentally ill or mentally challenged. When you know what you know, others were projecting their pain and saying, this is someone who's coming through with loving words of guidance, but because it doesn't align with my belief system, it must be bad or evil. Do you know what it's like for your soul to then say, I'm going to give you that vision and see if you can unwind it for yourself and for others? When you go to the guidance and love of all, you have to be able to see it for what it was. It was a vision from someone who was in the pain point. It was a vision from someone who didn't understand the nature of our love on a soul level. It was the nature of those souls who are working so hard to create dynamic visions of love for everyone, often, and forgetting themselves in the process. This is where Brenda was. I wasn't caretaking my own soul as much as what I thought I was. I was too worried about where others were in their vibration rather than where I was, because when I lose the victimhood, those around me lose it as well, in certain ways. My family tree may decide to look at me as if I'm a strange unit of energy. But that's the nature of where I am with them. You see, when I go to those highest visions, we are energetic beings creating from a place of love. Most often, others will say, I'm not denying those of hate. Hatred is just a condition of the mind. It's not of soul in the vision of love. Okay, it's an aspect of being on this plane for the most part. Others will recreate it in various realms in which they vibrate. How about that for love of all? Okay, so that's the nature of where Brenda writes. She's like, I don't hate people, I just don't agree with them. And I know that that in itself is its own limitation. It's not for me. It may be what you're here to do. It may be what you're here to be. But it doesn't mean I have to agree with you in order for it to be right for you. Correct? How many people assume if someone doesn't agree with them that they are against them in some way? It can be if people are utilizing weapons of discovery from various planes. Right? And this is what Brenda works with. She has a very conditioned mindset about identities that people take on. It's beautiful. She won't deny it and she won't let go of it because she knows what that is. More and more people are talking about the nature of identity crisis. And that's not where Brenda is. She strokes her soul very much. She knows what she knows, but that's not what the soul is saying. The soul would say she's got her struggles in the mind very often. Because in essence, she's trying to please many people who are still in the vision of I need to fight for my rights to live. That's a very different situation than I'm fighting for my dignity. Many people are still fighting for the dignity of their being. And what does that mean in truth? It means that my dignity is at stake. That's what people are doing. If they say they're fighting for something, it means that there is a pressure valve that is trying to be released on this plane. Some people need to release that pressure valve. This is why some souls will say, I'm not feeling it. I don't understand what you're saying. This is society at its best versus an internal combustion that some of us do when we're so sick and tired of hearing other people's versions of love as love. Right? How many people say, oh, this vision of spiritual enlightenment is saying that everything is loving? It's not about whether or not it's perceived as love. Brenda knows what that vision is. It can be very disparaging in the minds of many. And she doesn't say that vision to others. Every once in a while, if someone is on the screen who is open to that viewpoint, they will hear it from their source of vision that they are indeed loved from her soul and from theirs. What it is, though, is Brenda takes it to a different level of comfort for most. I'm understanding of the pain in which people are vibrating. I know I cannot understand fully your experience and your expression within that vision, but I know enough to know that it must not be pleasant for you based on the conditions in which you are portraying yourself to be. Many people are portraying themselves to be conditions versus analyzing the witnesses of those souls who had to create the situations in which they vibrate. So this is why people who are saying, I am this or I am that, are very much conditioned to think about what that provides for them on the soul level. Brenda is a very, very strong identifier with a certain personality type that rockets her to the moon and back. She was identifying with all sorts of visions, and that's why she was having fun with it. And she wasn't taking it too seriously until it becomes a moment of reflection with her family. When they say, I'm loving for who I am, absolutely, I give you that, but you don't know what you don't know. Brenda knows how the interactions are interplaying based on where they are in their mind. That's a very big difference than what her soul was saying to her, which was the idea that my pain points are that I don't know enough about others. That's usually where we are, right? Others are in their own pain, victimizing others with their minds. And they haven't understood what pain really is until they have to let go of it. And then they realize it's identifying them as a pain point. This is that identification with a condition of the mind that somehow puts them in a position of being a victim. And it doesn't mean that it's not accepted in the clinical world, perhaps, or in the scientific community or whatnot. But she even had to go to the place of, I am no longer a victim of my beauty. As a gifted soul, I am placing myself as gifted. And others were saying, no, you're not. And she's like, I absolutely am. I know my gifts. And then she starts to reveal to others who are also gifted in their own ways. And when people hear that, they start to think that they're somehow being labeled as less than. It's an inferiority complex, correct? This is not about superiority. It's about the beauty of seeing the gifts within all of us. And if we're so focused on the pain points, how can we see the beauty of who we are? Some of us are saying, I have to focus on the pain because it's what I'm experiencing in my moment. These are those individual souls that would need to have more of a soul session in order to see how I can rise out of the pain point and into the beauty of my moment. The beauty of my wonder, the beauty of my grace, the beauty of my soul saying you are loved always, no matter what pain point you bring forth. Okay, so this is the nature of what I do with my family even. Stop focusing on the pain and focus on the pleasure that you can. This is where Brenda suffers sometimes. And boy, can it be hard when she's like, oh, I'm so down on my luck, right? No, it's not that. It's more like I wasn't able to bring through the wisdom that I wanted to bring through in the moment that I wanted to because I wasn't there in my mind. I wasn't there in my soul. I was dealing with other people's soul trying to backtrack me to a place of pain so that they could see whether I could unwind, quote, the devil vision that others are trying to place on me. And I say, how dare you, right? No, I say, good luck with that vision. You've just called yourself the same thing that you're portraying others to be. Own it. Own it. And that's when people start to understand the nature of the spiritual enlightenment, and what we call others is what we ourselves are seeing in ourselves. That's the reflective process of soul. It's not pleasant, let me tell you. So Brenda was putting out a bunch of mirrors as that vision of when someone comes at me with something negative, I'm holding up a mirror in my mind saying, here you go. Here's who you are. This is the denial that many will have because they won't understand what the vision is until you go through the process. And if you align on a soul level, it can be a heartbreaking process if you're not already in the vision of, I'm not calling anyone less than who I am. I will say I have a different understanding about who I am, maybe than what you have about you. It's based on our love for ourselves. And when we go to others, as we would say it, it is more about, I do get to keep my beauty enwrapped in who I am because I'm a physical being with a physical body. I love my vision, I love my soul, I love my life is where some of us go. I love my kids, I love my wisdom. My family may not have the same opinion about who I was in my process of discovery of the heart that I broke along the way. You see, I've broken some hearts along the way, and those visions come back to me trying to tell me it's okay, it's beautiful from your soul. But we have a hard time if we're dealing with, the guilt, shame, and blame that others would assume would be pulled out on us if they were on this plane, as if they were on this plane. It's a very different story if we're getting soul information for those that are still on this plane. That can be a tricky loop vision. I spiral into the beauty of the pain most often. That's where some people go. Some people are loving their pain. They keep seeing it as a place of discovery for more of what they want. When I'm in pain, do I get the attention that I need? That's what people need to start thinking about. Am I reinforcing the focus of pain and the attention I receive from it? Now, Why am I putting myself in pain is where many are. It depends on your own soul's wisdom. It depends on your own soul's vibration. It depends on your own soul's love for yourself. We are not belittling you, but these are questions that do get asked of us if we are continuing to create from the place of I'm in pain. I am justified in my ignorance, is where Brenda was about certain topics. She will fully admit she's not aware of a lot of the things that others may be aware of in their hearts. I'm not here to tell you that you're beautiful just for being in pain. My soul would say, let me go in and see what's going on. I freely give for so many souls. My soul wants me to start coming clean about the nature of what it is to do the work because you love it and want to help others through their process. If you don't know what their soul is doing to them, how dare you try to get them out of the pain in the ways that others would? This is what us as those, quote, empath visions would say that we do, right? Not even close. We can indeed adjust the energy of a room, but it takes a special kind of soul to know the difference between I am changing the energy versus I'm changing someone's mind. Okay? The energy of the room is just fine for most of us. Many will say it's the toxic energy that Brenda brings to me, right? You have not actually felt the vision of love from a soul who was of murder on this vision and who is now crossed over, and you do not feel the same vision. So if you can do that vision from a place of I no longer feel the hatred for any soul, whether or not they walked on this plane or not, that's why she loves who she is, and you understand the nature of whoa. That's why I'm not vibrating in their energy as they were. It's who they are from soul level love. That's the difference. That's why Brenda is trying to help people break free from the idea that people need to go in and do anything with anyone's energy unless they themselves are in agreement on a soul level. That's the beauty of souls creating, and those souls who vibrate in the beauty of I'm being healed by a Reiki healer, for instance, or an empath, because we are that vision. I know when I can heal somebody versus those souls who are saying let them suffer until they themselves get out of the prison in which they've vibrated. I was there in my own way. I understand, and I took the advice of my soul. I made a big leap of faith, and boy, did it pay out. It doesn't mean there wasn't pain, but I was recreating a pattern of tragedy that wasn't fair for myself nor my loved ones. That's how strong it is to do the work of love. Okay, we create pain sometimes in order to get us out of a position or a place in our minds. And then we can reflect back and say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that. It was so hard that I made that choice, but when I made that choice, it was the best thing for me and for the others, whether or not they realize it or not. I happen to know this vision. I've done it several times in my life, and it's not about me. It's about the energy that we're creating as a couple, perhaps, or as a family tree dynamic. Many souls will say, now that you miss me, you can set me free, right? Most people are in the vision of trying to recreate the beauty and the borders around their hearts. I was one of those souls, right? Oh, I was trying to keep my heart open for everybody. And I knew in order to do that, I had to go in and learn a lot about myself first and foremost. This is the thing. It's not necessarily about having to go learn everything about others. You learn enough about yourself, you'll start to realize that within those visions, everyone else has those same contradictions within. Everyone else has those same love lines, those same visions of beauty, those same visions of I'm here, I'm all there, right? We're all here doing different things for different reasons, and that means that those who claim I have a better vision for myself Go with that vision for yourself. That's the beauty of knowing who you are. But how many people are afraid to even take a look at why they might be doing what they're doing? I'm fearful for my life is where many are. I self-illuminate my heart on many realms. The one that I don't do is religious aspiration. I'm not of religious aspiration. It's a pain point for me because it hurts me to know what I know about it. Others will say that's a ticket to paradise for them. It can be very much so for certain souls. For others, we understand the pain of various faiths and what they may or may not cause for certain people. Or just within the vision of I'm expected to behave a certain way, and then I lose sight of my own soul's dignity, right? How many people are told they're not of dignity if they're not true to their own hearts? We have to be true to somebody else's in order to be seen as beautiful and wise. Okay? That's why we understand the changes they are a coming. But in truth, we vibrate in the beauty of our hearts first and foremost, and that's when we see the true values of loved ones who come through and say, I love who you are too. I made a mistake in my life is where some go. Brenda says, I could have done a better job in my moment, but I did the best darn thing I could with what I knew in the moment. Whether or not I knew it in my mind and I did something anyways, there was a fear-based vision that I often placed on my heart that caused me panic and caused me to say or do things that I wouldn't have necessarily aligned with on this plane. Okay? You feel like you're being attacked by someone else's projection of devil? Let me tell you what that felt like. And I want people to think very carefully before they go through this process and where they think they're vibrating from. I have loved ones who are all up in that vision of the church. Okay? That's why I have to go to the highest realms of love for myself first before I go to the vision of I'm helping others. That's why it's the first step in our process. The process, I love who I am. And that doesn't mean it's at the expense of others. Because when you go through the true process of I'm loving myself for who I am, we don't deny that for others. We can see the issues, but it doesn't mean that they don't actually love who they are because their soul's vibrating in this field of glory. That's the beauty of our light. That's where those souls say, oh, I feel so beautiful. I feel so amazing with my soul. I can't imagine another way of being. And I vibrate in it. And then when I come down off my pedestal, it can feel like you're being placed on a pedestal. But it's not, your soul does do that for you if you're in the vision of I love who I am despite the pain that I caused or that I've received from others. It can be a heartbreaking process for a lot of souls if they aren't ready to take the next step. Oh my gosh, can it be a doozy? Okay, but when you are creating with people who aren't in that vision with you, that's when it's truly understood whether you're going to hear the beauty of who they are or their pain. And hearing someone's pain can be part of the process of allowing them to find their own soul's wisdom. So if you hear pain from a family member on the soul level, it could be that that is where they are now, and that is where you would say, I'm sorry they're feeling that pain. I don't automatically go in anymore and try to heal their vision or try to create some dynamic of let me go rescue them, because that's where a lot of us went. I need to go rescue my family from who they are. Let them suffer a little bit is what some people are saying. It's not mean. It's about understanding depending on where they are and the choices that they make. Do you understand the nature of people being able to grow up and take responsibility for their choices and their actions. And there are true victims who are not in that position to do that in many ways. And we grant them the beauty and love, no matter whether they're choosing the victimhood or not. It matters none. Their soul will always support them when we make those choices that are not necessarily in our best interest. Okay? But others get freed from those visions of, quote, demons and whatnot when they vibrate away from that idea that they have to take on someone else's system in order to be like them. Do you see how many people are assuming they are the system in which they vibrate? Versus the aspects of I'm a loving soul, climbing the tree of life, perhaps. Madonna is another soul that Brenda has attracted at one point in life. Because they understand the nature of the beauty of the systems without having to attach themselves to the outcomes that many are assuming come with those systems. Okay, people are looking for an outcome with a lot of those systems. And it's usually the vision of victim and trying to free themselves from some condition that they themselves struggled with based on what was granted them when they arrived on this plane. They were told they were less than, or that they were flawed, or that there was some other vibration that they were, ashamed of or whatnot. Right? The idea of the body and its form is somehow to be ashamed of. Therefore, we clothed ourselves, right? There are so many stories of old that we could go into. But that's also part of the pain point, is figuring out that just because you have a system that aligns you with your own discovery of soul freedom, because that's where some of those systems will allow you to create freely without the fear of anyone's soul's projections, right? We would say it's a limitation in the experience of others, most often. If you put up the borders and the walls around your soul. Segregationists would understand the nature of it. We think we need to put up boundaries around our hearts in many ways. But it can be a beautiful expression for many who say, I have to in order to thrive in this world. So people are saying, in order to thrive, I need to put up boundaries and walls around my being. And that's not exactly true. It's about how you handle those who are, quote, different than who you are perceived to be. You have the same limitations in your visions for others as you do for yourself. So if you feel like you need to segregate from people, you're going to attract people who want to segregate from you. It's the dynamic of let's challenge ourselves to growth in this field of vision. That's how beautiful soul visions often are. Is we rise out of the conflict of the day and we say, I love who I am no matter what. And that's the beauty of who you are. But the vision of victim is not to be taken lightly or to be thrown around as if it's just an everyday occurrence for most of us. And yet that's what we see on the internet in many ways, is a force. It's like the force of what a projected vision is. Okay? Those ideas that I am somehow a victim of someone else. And yet, on a soul level, we understand that we are making agreements with other souls as we speak. Okay? I don't align with the vision of those who try to create visions of victimhood on a financial level. That was where I was in my mind. I'm a victim of my financial situation. Okay? But it's about the choices. I'm taking full responsibility for my choices, but it doesn't mean that I don't deal with it. Do you see the difference in I'm a victim and I have no other way to deal with my victimhood other than to sit there and try to bring people in, and we all complain about it and justify it, rather than asking ourselves, how do I get out of it? How do I free myself from it? How do I own my vision of it? And then I can come from a place of, I know how to empower myself to that vision of overcoming calamity, perhaps. Okay, I just recently got told that my ex-spouse, who is a partner in crime, right? Because he must be if he's part of this vision. No, he as a soul has been able to erase calamity for a lot of us based on the ideas of where his compassion lies, while I myself was going through some serious pain points and reliving trauma from various levels. I had to relive some of it due to the nature of some choices that I made. It was never the same, but it was a recreation of an event that caused a lot of pain, and I had to pull myself out of the pain of the moment and actually realize that it wasn't the original pain that I was working with, but the memories and the markers of a process that I was going through that was disappointing in how it was being handled. My process for doing my work wasn't exactly the best for me. Right? I'm not here to try to recreate anyone's pain, but that's a choice I made in the form of looking at a lawsuit. Okay? Those kinds of visions can cause us to go back and try to recreate the vision. This is why we try to stay in the moment as much as we can. If others are trying to pull you back into their past, you need to ask them, what is it you're holding on to that makes you feel like I need to be there with you? And when they say, but you need to understand where I'm at, then you would say, oh yes, I understand. I recreated a painful moment. But I'm not looking at it as pain as where Brenda is. If we go for a place of understanding something versus I'm trying to feel bad about something again, that can be another learning, okay, or a growth point. Oh, I have a new understanding of the situation in which I created, related to the pain that I experienced on my soul. I'm no longer my own heart is where my soulmate would be, right? I hear from certain ideas and I say, oh, okay, I get it. People want to connect with their soulmates, not understanding that they haven't even connected with their own heart first and foremost. That's why some souls are like, oh, I definitely know I created with mine. You do create with your soulmates. Sometimes they're here on this plane, other times they're not. It depends on who you're working with and what the definition is that they themselves are aligning with. If you're connecting on a beautiful level of love here, then by all means, grab onto that and keep it. Whether or not it's labeled soul vision or not, it doesn't matter. Enjoy your beauty, enjoy your wisdom, enjoy your lives. That's where the soul vision of Brenda goes. Eventually, we come to this conclusion that we're here to somehow rise up and what? Spread the word of someone else's vision? Or are we here to do the work of loving ourselves fiercely, as in, this is what the wisdom of Freddie Mercury, the soul of Freddie Mercury, first came through with, and it was a beautiful one. That's why I grant that to anyone. So please don't take it as a victim that would say, no, I need to be able to rise in the victimhood of it, and then I can see it for what it was. We're not telling you to stop admitting where people are. Right? Some people are in the voice of God. Some people are in the voice of their hearts. Some people are in the voice of their own soul. Okay, some people are hearing the voice of what they perceive to be is Jesus or any other wisdom person or soul, right? Because truly it would be more of a soul vision if you're getting the guidance. You want to assume you're of the high. Okay, but if you feel like your own soul is somehow less than somebody else, you might want to rethink that vision. It can be a very disempowering moment once you realize others are not exactly who they claim to be. Okay? There are revelations in many ways for many souls who come through and say, oh, I had my secretive side. This is Brenda. I have my own privacy vision that I keep very well hidden from a lot of people, because in essence, I know that my process of growth can be a pain point in the minds of many. So I don't plant the fears for others, is what I try to do. But I can cause some just by the topics. Okay? And this is why we're not going to dilly-dally around with this idea that it's okay, everything gets set free once you go through the process of soul. It depends on where you are and what you create with the choices that you make. You can have a more pleasant experience, or you can have a dangerous experience. Some people go to the danger zone and they get lost, and then they start hearing those negativity. I already know what that is. If you hear negativity, that's me creating from a lower aspect of who I am, not somebody else. And so that's when you go, oh, okay, that's where I was in my mind at one point in time. Okay? I had to hear those visions brought back to me. Think carefully about what you want to retrieve. Okay? Others are saying, I want to create from this present moment going forward. And that's usually what your soul will bring you, are those beautiful moments moving us forward about what's going on here in this plane especially, and what we can create that makes it for a more pleasant experience, because truly our souls are here to enjoy this world for the most part at this point. We're not just here to learn. We're not just here to grow. It truly does depend on each soul, but in essence, a lot of us are in the position to enjoy our lives more often than not. It just depends upon our perspective and what we choose to be in each moment. So with that, I want to say thank you for watching, and please do remember, stay curious, wise, and soulful. Have a wonderful day.